And hello YouTube, this is Thomas Judge back once again, and I've just watched film 18 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I have just watched Black Panther. What can I say about Black Panther? This movie is awesome. Quick overview, it's about T'Challa, the king of Wakanda. You saw him in Civil War. It's a solid action movie with solid action scenes. It's really about sort of civil war and a coup within the country, from Killmonger, who I'll discuss in a bit. Amazing action scenes. The opening action scene being in Ghana. Then there's one in South Korea, which is phenomenal. Even the one-on-one fight sequences with Chadwick Boseman, brilliant. The second challenge, also amazing. And then the final battle sequence. I mean, this was just, in a way, it's Marvel movies by the numbers because it's just very competent, very effective action. But I can't criticize something for just being very, very good because everything else in the universe is very, very good and competent. So yeah, overall, brilliant movie. In terms of sort of thematic things I want to pull out, and like I say, at this stage of these reviews and this watch through, I feel that's the best way of looking at these movies. The depiction of Wakanda, man, off the hook. It's so good, so good. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely love it. It's just I can see why this film was such a massive seismic cultural shock when it came out in America, and I can totally see why this would be so empowering and so important for African Americans watching it. But I think for anyone watching this and to sort of see and be inspired by the idea of an African nation unencumbered by a colonial legacy, by all the various other sort of trappings that history have put on the African continent, so impressive, so well done, so fleshed out. And, you know, overall, although perhaps I might have done a few things differently, I think it was done very tastefully and very sensitively, as far as I could ascertain. So yeah, loved that. Secondly, just a few points about the general plotting. Like, it was a bit weird that there were a few heists involving Claw, played by Andy Serkis, before Killmonger killed him. Like, why didn't he just kill him straight on? All right, I'm pulling threads about nonsense. I'll forget that. Okay, let's talk about the casting. The casting here is phenomenal. Shuri, who is T'Challa's sister, is just brilliant. The actress is brilliant. The character is brilliant. That whole thing is just done so, so well. Chadwick Boseman, obviously as T'Challa, is perfect. I cannot think of a better actor to have ever played that role. It's absolutely just made for him. Absolutely phenomenal. But the standout winner for this, the standout character here, has to be Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger. Oh my god, he is incredible in every scene that he's in. I follow this guy's career since The Wire. I saw him in Fant Four Stick. And you know, he just absolutely kills it in this. Absolutely kills it in this. Killmonger's an incredibly interesting character. I think this brings back to something I was talking about in my Ant-Man review, which is Killmonger works because he is the dark mirror for T'Challa. If you can imagine, if T'Challa was fighting, I don't know, Warmonger from the first Iron Man movie, or the Mandarin or something, it would have been an interesting action movie, and that's fine. But what he's fighting here is someone who fundamentally, firstly, it's his cousin. Secondly, it's someone who actually believes the same thing he does, and fundamentally is actually Wakandan royalty, and not only that, is progressive royalty in the way T'Challa is. Like, the heart-rending thing at the end of the movie is when Killmonger's dying, T'Challa says, "I can save you." And there is this sort of, just a momentary opportunity to him to be like, look, you were right about what you believe, about Wakanda can't be a closed nation anymore. You just went about it the wrong way. And that's the fascinating thing about the Killmonger character, which is simply that he is T'Challa, but he's just T'Challa in a much more brutal, pugnacious American way. And that's really highlighted throughout the movie in lots of subtle and overt ways. Like, one of my favourite moments in the movie, and this is an idiosyncratic me moment, is right at the end when T'Challa comes back, having been presumed dead after the second challenge, and he comes back and he says something incredibly kingly in statement like I have not yielded and you have not defeated me. Did you think I would not return? You know, something like really powerful and Shakespearean. And Killmonger's response is look at him and just go, "What's up?" in this very American way. And it's like, it sort of highlights by a very immediate direct contrast the difference between this dignified African statesman and really what is an African American inner city youth. And just despite the similarities and the parity in their background, ultimately their upbringing has caused them to manifest that in a very different way. Anyway, like I say, it's a phenomenal use of the character. In the comics, I don't even remember him at all, to be honest. It's a phenomenal bit of casting, brilliantly acted, brilliantly put together. It makes the movie. On that note, another really interesting thing Killmonger brings up is the really critical moral question. And I love the fact that Black Panther didn't shy away from this. The moral question is, where have you been all this time? There's been slavery, there's been injustice, there's been so much prejudice and institutional structural prejudice across the world against black people. Where have you been? Why have you been hiding in Africa? And it raises that important moral question, which was referred to in Civil War, Captain America Civil War, which is a case of, well, if you have power, should you use it? Where is the oversight over that? And it was even alluded to back in Captain America Winter Soldier, which is a case of, well, do you enforce peace at the end of a gun? Anyway, really interesting. I think they tackled it as well as they could here. Personally, I would have loved to have seen more, sort of dive into that a lot more. But it's an action movie, and it's part of a larger cinematic franchise, so I completely understand they can't really do that. Yeah, what can I say? Ultimately, brilliant movie. Really, really enjoyed it. Loved Killmonger. Loved the moral question. Loved the casting. Loved the way it was put together. A couple of sort of minor flaws here and there, sort of pacing and into a few of the little bits and pieces, but honestly, nothing worth putting threads on in the slightest. So that's where I am with the cinematic read through or watch through, guys. Just before I close out, I'm just going to say, in terms of the sequence of the movies, here's a picture of all my DVDs, which is what I had in the introduction to this this video series. And do you know what? It has been pointed out that Phase 3 gets a little bit ropey because after Civil War, I think there's a fair amount of ambiguity as to what sequence things should be watched. So it turns out I haven't watched it in the exact correct theatrical release sequence. One, because I couldn't remember, and two, because the list that I got online obviously was wrong. So it may have been a case of Doctor Strange came before Spider-Man or something like that. To be honest, I'm pretty laid back and relaxed about all that sort of stuff. Because as far as I'm concerned, you have Civil War, and then from Civil War you can watch Spider-Man, or you can watch Black Panther, because they're both set up within Captain America and Civil War. And then from that, Guardians of the Galaxy just fits in somewhere before Infinity War, which we know, which I've done, which is fine. And Doctor Strange just goes before Thor Ragnarok because of the post-credit scene, which hints at Thor Ragnarok. So that's basically it. So although I may not have watched it in the perfect order, I'm very much a fan of the idea that there are no perfect orders. If anyone's ever read any of my, or rather watched any of my reading guides, especially my New 52 one, I make a joke about Type P readers and Type J readers. And Type P readers are the ones that are obsessively, compulsively trying to get everything the exact, perfect, platonic order of this is the ideal version of what things are. I'm not one of those guys. I'm more than happy to kind of stitch things together in my own head. On that note, that's actually why I didn't go through doing this in chronological order. If you go on Reddit, there is a chronological order to watch these in, which starts off with Captain America, set in 1942, and then parts of Agent Carter, and then parts of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and so on and so on, and Captain Marvel before the majority of the MCU movies. I'm not a fan of that sort of thinking, and maybe one day I'll make a video in detail explaining why I think chronological viewing and chronological reading is actually not just not for me, I think it's actually the wrong way to go about these things. Anyway, so I've done it that way. Hope you guys don't mind. Obviously, please feel free to watch it whatever way you want. And that's it from me. Like, comment, subscribe. Please support the channel by heading over to Amazon and letting me know what you think of my episodic novel No Gods or Kings, which would be amazing. And of course, tomorrow I'm going to be watching Infinity War. So I guess we're in the end game now.